All right. Hello, everyone. This is a brand new intro video. I don't know what everyone thinks of it. I kind of like it better. It's visually more appealing than the one we had before. Um, this is number 62 of our Campfire, which is insane when I think about it. That's more than a year of doing those interviews and really chatting with usually graduates like you, Candice, sometimes instructors, sometimes people, in the industry. We've had a bunch of folks from Google as well.
Yeah.
So it's always a pleasure, especially to go back to having a conversation with a graduate who's had a really interesting journey. So Candice, thank you so much for joining.
For
Really,
sure. Thank you for
we've been,
having
we've
me.
been talking about it quite a lot over the past few months. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Sure.
Uh,
I will. So, yes, my name is Candice, and I live in Texas, the big state of Texas. But I'm originally from Florida. So I'm a Southern girl through and through. You can probably hear it in my voice, right? But I have a background in education, and my husband is in the military. So I'm a military spouse. And I like to say that I'm a multi passionate person because I have lots of different interests. I've done lots of different things. But hey, now I am a web developer and proud of it. So,
that's awesome. And we're gonna hear your journey from your first passion in education. It's funny how the world comes together, all the way to becoming a web developer. I want to say a few words before we get started. First, hello audience, hello Hermes. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Um, so if you're watching us right now, first you probably know we're live. Like Hermes is with us right now live. This is really a stream, and we have Mami as well. Hello, hey there. This is the time where you get to ask your questions as well. So Candice and I are going to have our conversation. We're going to hear all about your journey, but then we're going to pause. We're going to stop. We're going to look at all the questions you're asking, and we're going to answer them. Either you, Candice, based on your experience, or I will do that. Hello, Alid. This is cool. Hello, Rome.
yeah.
Great to see you, all of you. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can ask your question via the chat on LinkedIn. If you're on YouTube, same thing. You have the chat window. You can ask a question there. If you're on Facebook, because we're really streaming on the 3 platforms at once, ask your question. So engage as you listen to Candice's story. All right. So with that all said, you said you are a multi-passionate person.
Yeah.
So that's really the first time I hear, but I kind of get it. I understand what you're meaning. Can you tell us, so what are those passions that you've had, starting with which one have you pursued, I guess, as well?
Yeah. Okay. So, do you really want to hear about all the passions? So actually
Maybe
before
top three. If there's too many, go with the top three.
so I actually did something before we did this today. I was like, I have to have a way to categorize my passion. So I told you my background's in education, so I had to like formulate it so that I could make it simple for myself and for others. So this is how I would categorize. I'm an encourager. I am an equiper, and then I'm an educator. So all of
Okay.
the things that I do seem to fall in line with all of those 3 E's, if I may say. But I mean, just to kind of give you an example, I like to write, which I think kind of falls under education. I like to write, I like to speak, I like to create. I love people, but I'm an introvert, and so I have to like
I was going to ask you that. I mean, based on everything you just described, I was like, you must be an extrovert.
No, I'm an
Okay.
introvert. So I love people and I give my all to people, when I'm with them. But at the same time, like even after this, like I need a nap, like I need to
Yeah.
pull away. So, but yeah, I've had to learn even that about myself, navigating all my passions and my love for people and how all that fits together. But one thing that I've learned is how diverse in a skill set I have and how it fits within web development. Like I can use my creativity, I can write documents, I can teach other people skills. And so, really, I get to do the full range of all the things I love. as an independent web developer. That's what I call myself
That
now.
makes sense. There's a question from Rome. Yes, it is going to be available after it's over at the same link that you're on right now. It'll be fully available offline. Hello, Jason. Hello, Monique.
Hey, y'all.
Again, if you have any question, feel free to interrupt us, and Candice or I will answer it. So the three categories that you've presented, that you've explained, they
Mhm.
all really tend towards helping others,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Mm.
Educating, supporting, encouraging.
Yeah.
It's all about really helping the other person, which
For
I
sure.
think is great. So let's go back at the very beginning.
Okay.
High school, going over to college. What was your first vocation or passion at the time? Like, what
Yeah.
did you want to do when you had to make the decision to go to college?
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure.
Understanding your first path.
Yeah. So Um, I was a really good student in high school. And so my parents always told me, you can do whatever you want to do. Right. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what do I want to be? And I didn't really know much about like some of these, I guess, higher level professions. So my mom was a teacher, my dad was in retail management. And that's what I saw. They
Mhm.
were professionals, they were doing well. But they always wanted me to like go for pharmacy or law and things like that. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't really feel like that's a good route for me personally. But I had some classmates that were talking about engineering. I
Mhm.
didn't know any engineers personally. So I entered college as an engineering major because I was really good at math. And it was like people were saying, if you're really good at math and you can pretty much learn anything, go the engineering route. So I entered as a freshman as an engineering major, and again, had no idea what that meant. I walked into my first class, and I'll just be transparent with y'all. That was in 2001. I know I don't look 40, but I am. Um, but yeah,
Congrats.
so in 2001, I went to college, and I ended up going into this classroom and no one looked like me. There weren't any women and there weren't any people of color. And that was just, and it was a smaller college. So
Mm.
it wasn't like these big classrooms full of people. And I got intimidated, Ludo. Like I was
Oh,
like,
really?
I don't know. I think I need to go talk to the counselor and figure out something else.
Oh,
And so I
wow.
stayed for the semester. I remember taking this one class. Um, I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember now looking back, I learned how to code a alert and a prompt. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. The
So the
coolest thing.
coding interest kind of started a little bit at that time. Were
Yeah,
you in Florida or in Texas at the
in
time?
Georgia, actually.
Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
I went at Valdosta State University in Georgia.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to pause real quick as well. We're going to get back to that college experience. If you want to join Candice and myself right here with your webcam, your microphone, and ask questions live, you can do it by clicking this link, url.nucamp.co/dial-in. I know it can be a little intimidating, but it's kind of fun. Like you're with us, we have a short conversation. It could be fun. So that's crazy. Do
Yeah.
you ever regret, not pursuing it? I mean, it was super intimidating
Yeah.
to not really recognize, the community or
Mhm.
yourself in that classroom.
Yeah.
So you dropped out like a semester afterwards, and
So I ended up changing my major
you did?
to
Okay, yeah.
education because I was
Okay, I
familiar.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. It was familiar, and it was also I mean, I'm an educator at heart. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't that I was just choosing that because it was the simplest route, but it just made sense for me.
Mhm.
But I'll also tell you this, my mom being a teacher is the one that exposed me to technology. So I remember when well, I think I was in kindergarten. She brought home it was an Apple computer where it had the green screen, and Oregon Trail and Snake and all of that, and you had to like
Oh
type.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. It must have been an
Yeah,
Apple 2E or Apple 2C at the time,
something.
before the
I
Macintosh, before the
Yes,
first Mac. I
yes.
had one of those. I had one of those.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was so intrigued then, but, like, that was my introduction to, like, technology, and then, of course, like, in school, we didn't have back then, y'all, like, I graduated in 2001 from high school, so, that was around the time when people started to have
Yeah.
personal computers in their homes.
That's right.
So even like my freshman year in college, you went to the computer lab to do your work. You didn't
Hmm.
have your own personal
Yes.
computer. I think maybe the next year or two after was when I got my first, a laptop, and it was a big deal.
And it was thick like that. The laptop was
Yes,
thick like that, right? Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. It was a different time. But I
So you,
don't regret it. I
yeah.
don't regret not taking that opportunity then, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I
Mhm.
didn't. Everything has come full circle for sure, but I feel like I'm a more well-rounded person and can bring that to the industry because of all the experiences I've had.
And what you just said as an introduction really comes in light and makes a ton of sense now, right? It's very much a series of passions or different passions that you've really approached, that you've nurtured, that you've embraced at a certain point in time, but everything comes full circle and together ultimately.
For sure.
So, you pursue college. You're an
Mhm.
educator. Um, what is your first job then? Right after that?
Well, can I tell you what my first job was in college?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
working in
Go
the
for it.
computer lab.
Oh really? Well, this is brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I worked in the computer lab, and then I also worked at the Boys and Girls Club in the community.
Yeah.
And while I was in college, I also worked with a nonprofit that was on our campus that did mentoring. And so I actually ended up working for nonprofits after I graduated. So really, I mean, if you think about it, even as a teacher, that's a nonprofit. I've
Mhm.
only worked for nonprofits up until recently.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so education, helping people, like that's always where I found myself. So
So
yeah.
that's a question from Jason. Um, that's really interesting. What has been the most useful experience in your major that applies to your current role as a mentor?
Hmm. Oh yeah, that's a great question. So um I think just people skills, right? Like if you think about what teachers do in the classroom, and I say this, and those people that have been in the classroom as teachers, you understand, but like if you can manage 25 to 30 young people in a classroom and do all the admin stuff plus teach and do all the things, you can do anything. So I think that the training that I got as an educator has helped me to be a mentor because I can meet people where they are
Hmm.
and deliver, solutions to maybe their questions and things that are differentiated and not just be cookie cutter for every person.
Yeah,
Because in the
that's super
classroom,
important. Yeah.
we had people from, people that had learning disabilities, people that might have been more introverted, but as a teacher I had a responsibility to make sure that I was reaching my students, and so I think that has allowed me to use that even as a mentor, as a web developer as well.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We just had someone join us. I think that was Mireg, who joined us on the stream. Mireg, if you want to join, you're welcome. You need to have your camera on and obviously your microphone on. But if you want to try again, that you'll be welcome. Um, and then we have Monique, who started off as a teacher and then transitioned. It is impressive the number of teachers or educator that move into software engineering afterwards
Yeah.
and feel like it's a good fit. And there's another profession that's kind of similar. It's music. Musicians or music teachers, they
Mm-hmm.
are also very much connected to the world of software engineering. To some, I mean, for interesting. I don't know actually the real reason for that, but yeah. And Hermes has a question. So Hermes, don't hesitate. Ask your question on YouTube. Don't ask to ask, just ask. So go for it. We'll wait for you and we'll answer you. Uh, so I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile here. So you you were a STEM and math teacher for
Mhm,
Harmony Science Academy for quite a good amount of time. Can you
mhm.
tell us a little bit about what Harmony Science Academy was doing,
Yeah.
and how did you develop? Like, question is, did you were you involved in coding or in computers at that time as well, or was it always in the background as well during that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, as I mentioned before, I've always loved math, and I ended up teaching at Harmony Science Academy. And because it was STEM focused, we used technology in everything that we
Mhm.
did. So, I think all schools now kind of do this, but every student had a Chromebook. And when we would do our projects, they would be project based, but they had to use technology. And so I always found myself like having to learn different software and things like that. And I would catch on like this. In fact, my first month teaching, my first month as a teacher, I remember getting Teacher of the Month because I was the teacher that they didn't have to help with navigating some software
Mhm.
and I was helping others. And so like that was impressive to them, but to me it was like I mean I just feel like I pick up technology pretty quickly. But as far as coding, I did not do any coding with any of my students.
Mhm.
It was later that I kind of picked that up and got an interest in it.
Yeah, okay, that makes a ton of sense. B- the folks on the chat really are interested in understanding your transition
Yeah.
into coding. So let's talk about that. But I think you didn't go straight into coding, right? I mean, I'm looking at the what you did for 3 years. You were an SEO writer.
Hmm.
So can you explain to folks, how you go from being a math teacher to SEO writer?
I have no idea. Let me tell
Well,
you what happened for real, like for real.
yeah, go for it.
So I was teaching and we had our two sons. And after I had our second son, I just felt like it was time for me to focus more at home because like I had two kids under two. And I was just like, I'm giving all my time to all these kids and I have two
Oh, you
kids
have
and
twins?
I don't even know how to manage. So
You have
ended up
twins?
coming home. I was teaching online. Um, and that was amazing. So again, technology, teaching online. This is before COVID, Ludo. This is before COVID, before everybody was teaching online, and absolutely loved it. Then I started to teach other teachers how to teach online before COVID, and had a whole business that was around this whole thing. And one of those teachers was working for an agency, a web agency, and she was telling me how they were looking for an editor
Mm.
because they had writers and they just needed someone that could edit. So I'm thinking, oh, I can edit, like I can. That's easy. Don't ask me to write anything because I'm a math teacher. Like I
Right.
don't do all that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I applied for the job and they said one of the things they wanted me to do was to go through the process of what the writers do so that I would have a full understanding before the projects come to me for me to edit. So I ended up doing the whole thing. Long story short, um, the guy was like, "Do you want to be a writer?" And I was like, I'm not really a writer." He's like, "No, you're really good at writing." Ludo, the thing is, I have written all my life as a student,
Uh-huh.
like technical, I guess, like when you think of essays in college, it seems more like duh, 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 like very cut and dried. And I always made A's on it. But this type of writing, SEO writing, kind of had a similar feel. And he said I was really good at it. And so they trained me. And so I did SEO writing. I wasn't expecting to do that. I thought I was just going to edit the writing. So I ended up
Mm.
doing that. And now, as a front end developer, it has been such a valuable skill to know how SEO works
Yeah.
and to be able to build a front end, especially now that I'm, freelancing and all that stuff. So that's the, I guess, the story of how I got into SEO writing.
And so, would you say it's actually a really smooth way into web development and coding? Because it's not that technical, but it really introduces, to your point, it
Yeah.
introduces you to a ton of techniques that you're a better front end developer when you know them,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. Because when I was learning how to write in this way, like I didn't like I wasn't aware of like H1s, H2s, and meta descriptions. And then when I would look at code, I was like, oh my goodness, that's what's in the header. Like, like
Yeah,
in the head of the code. And so it started to connect for me when I started to learn how to code, like the things that appear on the front end, there are some technical things that go on the back end. And so there was this connection. And yeah, I think it is a technical route. And some people just go that far and some people go a little bit further. And that's what I decided to do.
yeah. So we are starting to answer your question, Ayobami, and we're going to continue to answer your question, which is, were you able to transition into tech without a degree in computer software engineering, and how was the transition for you? So I would say first step or first part of the transition really for you was going from being a math teacher to being an SEO writer, which really brought you closer to the tech world, working
Mhm.
with websites and things like that. Tell us now about the next step, right? Because when you're an SEO writer, I would say you're primarily a writer. You're not yet a coder. So how
Mhm.
did you go from, how did you go that next step into really the world of coding then?
Okay. So, Ludo, if you remember the first time we talked and we talked about having this, I was like,
Yeah.
my journey is not this straight route,
Yeah.
right? So, we got to back up a little bit.
Okay,
Okay.
let's back
Before I
up.
became an SEO writer, remember I was doing the whole like helping other teachers learn how to teach online, how to build a business that way. I needed a website to do that. And so I learned WordPress.
Oh. So
So
you
I
you self-teach you self-taught yourself WordPress.
Yeah, so I self-taught myself WordPress. So that's more of design um on the front end, but you
Mhm.
can go so deep with WordPress, which I
Yeah.
had no idea of
Oh
until
yeah.
actually recently. But there were things that I wanted to customize on the WordPress themes, and that's when I discovered CSS, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can change that with code." So that was my introduction to code. So when I was SEO writing, I was already building WordPress websites for people. I wasn't doing much coding, but I already had this eye for what the front end should look like.
Mhm.
And then again, we had the SEO. And then when you're working with WordPress and then you talk about writing content, the SEO, the content, WordPress, it all fit together. And I was like, ooh,
Exactly.
this is some good stuff right here. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. You know what? That path is a brilliant path when you think about it, to get
Mhm.
into tech. Um, because it's very, I feel it's very business oriented, right? It's very actually entrepreneurship
Yep.
oriented.
Yep.
It's kind of a no code type of approach or
Mhm.
low code, right?
Yep.
You don't have to know about, Express server and deploying your
Right.
code. But it really introduces you to a ton of those concepts, right?
Right.
You
Right.
have to you have to understand CSS at some point. You have to understand HTML, and
Right.
then before you know it, you're starting to dabble into JavaScript, right? Because you want to do a few
Mhm.
things and things like that. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't a straight path. It was math, helping others, needing a website, doing SEO, learning WordPress. And I,
Yep.
and I remember now, I remember your resume at some point was actually you were a WordPress developer, right? That
Yes,
was your,
I am
oh, you-
still. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. I'm a lot deeper in the woods now that I know React and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, and it's a lot of fun.
Can you give folks an idea of timeline? Because it doesn't happen overnight, right? You
Mm,
don't go from being a math teacher doing SEO and then WordPress in like 3 months. Like how
oh
long
no.
how long did it take you to really bring all those skills together in a way that you felt that you could, for example, sell your services and
Yeah.
doing that?
Okay, so in 2018, May
Yeah.
2018 is when I left my teaching job. So the summer came. I had my summer paycheck coming in. So I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to start building my own business for the online thing. I started building WordPress websites, built my own. Other people were like, ooh, can you build me one? And so it wasn't like I was trying to go into, ooh, I want to be a WordPress freelancer. It was just like people saw what I did, they liked it, and as I got the courage to say yes, I would, do more and more. So this was the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
And then you're right. So I happened upon JavaScript in 2019 because I'm like, oh, I really like this coding thing. What's next? So learn HTML, CSS. Oh, this is easy. Oh, I got
Yeah.
this. If this is going to be a developer, oh, I'm going to be the best one. And so jumped into JavaScript.
Uh-huh.
It got me. It got me. And so that was in 2019. And I tried to push through it. 2020 came. I had an excuse to bow out. I had an excuse to quit because it was like, oh, everything's too hard. So 2020, I just didn't do it anymore.
Mm.
And I did more of the SEO writing and things of that sort. And honestly, I put that on hold until a year and a month ago. A
Yeah.
year and a month ago is when I showed up on LinkedIn and made the announcement. I am jumping back in where I left off. And so that was what, 2018 to last year,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah. So it is a long journey at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
for me it was. Maybe other people could be shorter, but it was
Well,
4
but
years for me.
what I
Yeah.
really appreciate about your approach is it's a lot of self-taught first and a lot
Mhm.
of very practical, like pay the bills type of thing,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
which is huge. And a lot of people are looking for that nowadays, right? They don't want to learn for 3 years and hope for, getting paid at the end. So
Right.
that freelancing approach, I'm super amazed that you decided one summer to get into the business and then you had people asking you for to help them, like unsolicited. I
Yeah.
want to ask you about that right after I answer the question from Hermes, but I want to get back to that because that's huge. Um,
Mhm.
so Hermes has a question here. So your video on bootcamps with Don the developer, yes. Want to know how is the process? How many times the student reunite, and how much it costs, and how can it be paid? I'm thinking. So let's do
Mhm.
it in sequence. Um, so you can just register online. We have a test, so you can just register, put your credit card, and you're in. So in terms of acceptance, super straightforward. We don't really discriminate against any previous skills. We ask you to know a few things, but you're going to self-select. We also offer, if you want to pay one go, or if you want to receive an invoice, we can do that. How many times the student reunite? So we have a workshop session. We have multiple times now. We have Fridays, we have Saturdays, we have Sundays, but it's typically outside of traditional working hours, so that you can, if you already have a job, you can do it on the side, and it will be once a week. And Candice, you can tell a lot about the experience. You've gone through all of it. And during the week, you're going to have Discord. You're going to be able to connect with your instructor as well. So it's not like you're just doing stuff once a week. You're working every day, and then you have a big live moment once a week. How much does it cost? Well, you can go on the website. It's like average about $2,500. And how can it be paid? I mentioned it's credit card. We can do ACH. We can do things like that. So hey, yeah, I hope it helps. All right, I'm gonna answer that one question as well from Tigray. We don't offer full scholarship opportunities. I'm really sorry for that. We don't have that. We have partial scholarship that you can find on our webpage /scholarships. We don't have full tuition, full ride scholarship at this time. And quickly, yes, Monique, Candice attended Nucamp
I sure
uh,
did. I am
and
a
graduated.
graduate. Yay.
All right, so let's go back. Let's go back uh, to the point you made in 2018, the summer of 2018. You decide to become freelance, and boom, you get clients. That
Yeah.
never happens. Like usually, it's not because you decided to create a business that you have clients. So, what is your secret? How did people find you? Was it your network? Was like how did
I
you
believe
get
so.
business so quickly? And kind of, is there a formula? Like is there a way for you to tell people what to do precisely so that they could just try to replicate what you did?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you asked me that because I feel like what I did then is kind of what I'm doing now that has allowed me to essentially build something, which we could talk about later. But I put myself out there. Like, as I mentioned, I was teaching online. There were lots of teachers that were teaching English to students in other countries. And so I was like in these Facebook groups and things. And I was one of the first teachers that had gotten into this type of work. And I mean, back then, again, before the pandemic, having a teaching job like that was not normal. And so I was in groups, and then I started a group to like coach people how to get these types of jobs, that you had to do interviews and you had to present yourself well on camera and all these things. And as I mentioned, I was sharing how you can grow a whole business and make a full-time income doing this. I had to have a website. And then as people saw what I was doing, because I put myself out there, I shared what I'm doing,
Yeah.
people got interested and was like, hey, I need a website. I need to brand myself. I need to. And so that's just where it came. And yes, it's scary. Like I wasn't confident that I was the best
Yeah.
person to build a WordPress website for someone, but I had done my own and I was proud of it. So I shared it. Now, if I look back at that website today, I mean, it was all right,
Yeah.
but that was where I started, and I was 3 steps ahead than
Mhm.
some people, maybe just 1 step ahead, and to them, they thought it was awesome. And I think we have to be confident of where we are in the journey right now, because there's someone that needs what we have, no
Yeah.
matter where you are in the journey. Be proud of where you are. And yeah, a year later, 2 years later, you're going to look back and be like, what was I doing? Why didn't y'all
Yeah.
tell me?
And that's always the case. No matter where you are in engineering, you always make progress. You always better yourself. And then you look back and you're like, oh my God, I will do it
Yeah.
so much differently right now.
But you got to
So
just start.
this is great. This is great because what you really did is you didn't just participate, right? You didn't say, I'm going to join and I'm going to, try to engage. You
Mhm.
really owned your journey. And I think a lot of people talk about building your own personal brand.
Right.
That's very much what you did. Like, it's hard to build your personal brand when you just participate.
Right.
You
Yeah.
really created the opportunity. You created that group. You led others. And I can tell how much your passion for helping others morphed into leading others and
Mhm.
actually attracted people to wanting to work with you,
Um,
asking you for advice, for help. And that's a great way to make it happen, right?
mhm.
Just own your journey, build your brand. And I have in the back of my mind, the advice we give to aspiring developers who are trying to find a job and they're clicking apply on LinkedIn every day and they're doing it 50 times a day. That's not it.
No.
You're not building your brand that way. You're not putting yourself out there that way. Nobody's going to notice the 50 clicks you're doing on LinkedIn. The right way of doing it is what you did. It's, finding something in your environment that makes sense. And you did it even more impressively because you didn't care about, the impersonator syndrome, imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure you kind of felt a little bit,
Yeah.
do I really know everything? But what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling from you is your uh, um, your drive to help others was better than your imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you knew, it was worth sharing and putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And I've always been that way, Ludo. Like I can't
Yeah,
help but to be that way.
yeah,
I'm sure you looked at my LinkedIn, but like literally a year and a month ago is when I started writing on LinkedIn. And
yeah,
because of me just sharing where I was, that's where I got my first 2 job opportunities within, I used to say 90 days, but I realized it was 60 days of me being on LinkedIn. It was
yeah,
because I was just sharing, I was adding something to the conversation.
yeah. And
And
people notice you.
yeah.
It sounds simple, but it's so true. Like, we were just chatting right before we went live that we have many students at Nucamp, and I don't know all of them, but I know some of them sometimes. And why? Because those students show up differently. They
Mm,
engage. I see them on LinkedIn. I see you, on the show. And just that, just you don't know how much actually people are going to think about you down the line. And
mm,
3 months later, 6 months later, have an opportunity and they're going to, hey, Candice, I think Candice will be great for that. Just because you showed up.
yeah.
So yeah, this is brilliant. We have a question for, actually, it's more of a statement from Monique here, who may want to follow up with you afterwards because she's thinking about joining Nucamp.
For sure.
Already a software engineer. That's actually interesting. And yeah, thank you. Glad to be here to help.
Yeah. Well, I
So
can relate to that, Ludo,
yeah,
because like we haven't even gotten to the point where I did New Camp. So
I
yes,
know,
I
I
was,
know.
I was a freelance web developer, right? Like,
Well,
but yeah, you want
let's
me to just
get
jump in?
there. Let's get there in time. I want to talk about what you just said,
Okay.
which is you a year and a half ago you decided to be active on LinkedIn. You did
Mhm.
posts, and then you got offered those two jobs. So give us some details. Like first, so
Yeah.
did people just reach out to you saying, "Hey, we think you'll be great for that position"? Is that how it worked?
Okay, so I wasn't writing to get a job.
Yeah.
I actually had taken 9 months off from I left my job and took 9 months off because I was burnt out. I didn't even know if I was ready to work. But I knew I wanted to jump back in where I had left off in 2020, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to write where I am, what I'm learning. If I have any tips to offer, it's the educator in me. I can't help it. So I was just writing.
Yeah.
And then I got people sending me messages in my inbox. Hey, I see that you have a background in education and you're a WordPress developer and do you know JavaScript? And so I was getting people, I was getting recruiters, actually saying, can we get on the phone? Blah blah blah. Now most of them weren't a good fit for me. Again, I wasn't looking for a job, but there were two opportunities that did come. There was one to be a lead instructor for a software development boot camp. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I can teach HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so ended up accepting that. And then the other one, actually, it wasn't them reaching out to me. I reached out to someone and they looked at my LinkedIn and I'm pretty sure that that was what got the ball rolling because they didn't ask me too many questions. It was like they had everything they needed there in order to move forward. But yeah, literally, I got people in my inbox and
That's
grew my network. Like there were so many benefits to it.
and you know what? I mean, it was also a time where, to be fair, there was, it was a different job environment, right? What it was
A
like, yeah,
year
what's it,
ago.
a year ago, we didn't have all those layoffs. But I must say, even though it's true that the job market is challenging right now, the people that are following your path and doing what you've done have so much more potential to get a job.
Yeah.
You can get a job. You absolutely can get a job in this market if you do exactly what you did, if you're putting yourself out there, if you're networking. And networking doesn't have to be, oh my God, I need to go to 3 in-person events every week, right?
Mhm.
Networking can just be what you just described, right? Go
Yeah.
on Medium. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn. Go on Medium. Go in Reddit. Go on LinkedIn. If you're a Twitter person, tweet on Twitter. But
Hmm.
put yourself out there. And again, you're going to be surprised how many people notice you and remember you for an opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Ludo, I will even say, like, even still to this day, I get people asking me if I want a job. I don't have the green banner up,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like, but I do refer people. So I do, I want to give back. I'll say, hey, I do know some people that are, and that comes through networking. That's another reason why networking is so important because you never know what goes on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
how your name can pop up in somebody's head, and they're like, I do know someone that might be a good fit for. So,
Exactly. And
mhm.
you're still active on LinkedIn. I mean, I follow you and I see you are well, tell us actually. I think you've made a big decision recently and you've
Yeah.
been super active on LinkedIn and posting about it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So a month and a week ago, I left my full-time job so that I could be more of an independent web developer and be the multi-passionate person I am. And so the goal, Ludo, is to actually continue to do the freelancing, but I want to build a small agency and I want to hire some people to work with me.
I would love
Like it's training, and it not be like this long-term thing, but like a short-term thing where it's like, come on for 6 months and I'll teach you the basics of web development along with WordPress. And so the goal, I guess I'm putting it out there for people to know, and y'all can hold me accountable. The goal is for by the end of the first quarter of the new year to have this thing launched and hire my first person.
Oh, this is good. And I'm seeing questions here. We're going to get to that. But are you pursuing the apprenticeship route for this?
Hmm. I don't know. I haven't really thought.
You and I, we should talk about it maybe offline.
Okay.
There are big opportunities in uh, building apprenticeship programs.
Okay.
There's funding, federal funding to
Okay.
help with that.
Yeah.
And what you're describing sounds like an apprenticeship where
It does.
you're hiring someone, but you're teaching that person as well. They're learning on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And those programs allow your company to pay maybe half the salary and then the other half is paid by the government or something like that.
Wow. Yeah. I would love to talk
Definitely
about that.
something.
I didn't know.
Now you have, you have to be approved and there's some red tape here.
Okay.
But that could be something.
Yeah.
Um, so hold on, let me look at the questions we have here. So some's question here, but I'm not sure I really fully understand what the question is about. I'm curious if Nucamp has instructor mentor who has the opposite experience from Candice. And I don't know what that will look like. What is the experience, the opposite experience? Transition from engineer to someone who was a web developer or was in coding and went into education.
Mm.
I don't know actually. I don't. Why is that how you understand the question as well?
Transition from engineer to educator instructor. I mean, wouldn't most of the instructors be that though? Like most people didn't come in with the background with
That's
of
right.
education, but it's a learned skill on top of the
It's a good.
development.
Yeah, you're right actually. So for context, our instructors are part time with us, but they are usually full time in the industry as engineers. And so
Mhm.
they do that on the side and they become educators, instructors on the side. I don't know anyone who switched to being completely educator, but I guess if you're interested in asking the question, just join and you're going to have several different instructors as well, and you're going to be able to ask them. um, there we go. So that's yeah, so the next question explains like me become a part of engineer instructor network. Well, you first need to demonstrate that you have the technical skills. So that comes first. And then after that you can be a good instructor. And usually on our end, we have 2 interviews and then we test you on the first course. And so depending on how well you do with your first course, we have coaches as well. And if you do well, then you can stay with us. If you don't do too well, we're going to see if there's potential and maybe we're going to give you another shot. But if there's no potential, then we won't pursue. But there's plenty of opportunities like that, not just with Nucamp, but I would say other coding boot camps. Like you did, right, Candice? You
Mhm.
started. Um, let's look at Monique's question. Well, I'd love if you could answer that one, Candice.
Yes.
So you probably were struck by that price difference as well. What I'll let you go. What can you tell
Sure.
about? And you've actually worked in another coding boot camp, so without naming names and
Yeah.
you know trying to compare necessarily, but what can you tell about New Camp and our price point?
Yeah. So actually I had thought about doing a boot camp 5 years ago, but the prices were crazy. I was just like, I will be in debt for the rest of my life. I already got college debt, right? But you're right, Monique. It's very affordable because if you look at what Nucamp offers and the cost of the programs versus if you go anywhere else, you might as well multiply that by 100. or like I mean, because it really it's an investment either way, but like it you do need to put skin in the game in order to really do this well. And knowing that you're going to have an instructor and you're going to have a community to do this with, like that's the draw to the any boot camp. But with Nucamp, the reason why I went with Nucamp is because of the cost. Also because remember, I had just gotten 2 jobs, but I wanted to up level. I wanted to learn React. I was like, I can't learn this on my own. And so I ended up doing the front end web and mobile app boot camp. And I did it because it was affordable and I could pay it as I went. And I got a scholarship. So that helped
Oh
too.
yeah, you got the Women in Tech scholarship.
Yeah, but it is affordable, and I think it's accessible for most people more so than other boot camps.
That's
And
right.
it was designed for people who are career changers and can't just completely quit their jobs.
The
But
part-time aspect, right?
yeah,
That's how we all started. I mean,
yeah,
I started New Camp really in 2016. Then like for a year, kind of tested it. But from the beginning, I was like, how do people? How is it that we are asking folks to quit their jobs and make a big bet on themselves in the future for like 3-4 months and hope that everything's going to be fine on the other end? Like, why aren't we doing it part-time?
right.
I mean, people have, go back to school to get an MBA and they do it nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it kind of was kind of insane that we were forcing people to quit their jobs to attend a full-time experience. Now, granted, full-time is great. I mean, if you can afford it, if
Mm-hmm.
there's an in-person location, being able to just be full-time on it, you're gonna learn so much, right? You're gonna really absorb it, and also it kind of forces you to avoid distractions. But again, it's a big bet. It's a significant bet, and not everyone wants to make that bet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
appreciate that. Hermes is asking, how can I contact? Yeah, contact. I did register before, but never attended. Oh, really? Yes, you can. Absolutely. So, student admin, email student admin and ask to be rescheduled for the upcoming start. And they're going to look at your account. They're going to see, where you stand in terms of payments. But yeah, absolutely, that should be doable, and you don't have to repay everything. So I have an email studentadmin@nucamp.co. All right. And there's another question from Hermes. Yes, if you follow the workflow, if you click register, at some point you're going to be asked to check a box, and it's going to tell you, hey, take that test. That's going to be how you know which test to take. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. So it's really impressive how you went from passion for education, writing, SEO, WordPress, JavaScript, being freelance. Um, you've had actual positions with the title web developer, right? So can you tell us about, and I think we talked about it, it's the position as a web administrator.
Web administrator, yes, with the
Yeah.
state of Texas Workforce Commission. Yeah, that was one of the jobs that I got a year ago, a year and a month and a week ago. But yeah, it was an opportunity for me to put into practice the things that I had learned. Now, we weren't hardcore developers. We had a developer team,
Yeah.
but we did have to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because we were doing a lot of the things on the front end. And then there was a bot that needed to be installed and maintained, and so it's like, I know JavaScript, I can help, and so it was really fun to be able to do that. But then also, I like design too. You could probably
Yeah.
pick that up on just having a love for WordPress, and so making sure that the front end looked well. And one of the coolest things, Ludo, was to be able to work and do sprints to complete a huge project. There's a brand new website that I helped to launch. And I actually left the day after. So of course I put in my notice and things like that, but I
Yeah.
wanted to finish this project and be able to say, I
Yeah.
accomplished something. I was a part of this team that launched this site because we had like a 10, 12-year-old site before and it was horrendous. But now it's beautiful.
No,
But
that I
yeah,
really like. Is it public? Like, can we
yeah,
go and
it's
check it out?
public. It's public.
Okay,
Is it twc.gov? twc.gov, I believe that's it.
I must be something
Texas
else. What is
Workforce
it?
Commission.
PwC Gov. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
.texas.gov.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Can I share it? Yeah, it's public.
Yeah, please
Let's have a
do.
look.
I'm proud.
So as I'm sharing it, like show me the space that you practically like that you owned and were and are very proud
It
of.
was everywhere,
Like,
Ludo.
can you
Like
comment? Can you yeah? Can you react to it? So what are we looking at here, and what should we know about this website? And I like that. Yeah, this is great.
yeah. So it was built with Drupal.
Oh yeah.
And this was my first time working with Drupal, but with Drupal, you really do need to know more than the basics.
So remind me, Drupal is a framework for Python or PHP? I always get confused.
PHP.
That's PHP. So it's
Mhm.
still PHP.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's still PHP.
Good old PHP, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we worked with a third party who did like the hardcore development and things of that
Yeah.
sort. But as far as the front end, our team did that. Like,
And it
yeah,
looks pretty.
isn't it
It's
so
very
cool?
simple, sleek. Like
Yeah,
I'm clicking back and next, and it's super responsive. Usually you'll see, an hourglass, but this is really good.
yeah.
All right, I want to try something real quick. I hope
Don't break it, Ludo. Don't
can I
play.
do it? You know what I'm doing?
What? Oh, the mobile responsiveness. Oh,
There
it's
you
there.
go.
It has
Yeah,
to be.
of
Yeah,
course, right?
yeah,
Nice. Yeah, that's what we teach. There you
yeah.
go. And then you go from two columns to one column,
Mm-hmm.
so it looks great on mobile phones. Perfect.
And Ludo, the thing about when you work for government agencies, like web
Oh
accessibility
yeah,
is
it's
like
huge.
law. You have those things are so important. So
Yeah.
I learned about web accessibility, things I didn't even know were important. So can you imagine how all the things that I've learned in, with my love of WordPress and all that, and then I work for a state agency and I pick up the web accessibility and I'm like, oh, my
Yeah.
freelancing, like I'm not going to be charging hundreds of dollars or even like 1,000 or 2,000. Like it bumps up
This
because
is
my
huge
skill set is
because every website needs it.
yes.
Every website. And so here's the thing: if I press tab here, right, I should be see. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pressing tab, and that's part of accessibility. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can do everything on my keyboard. Oh, that's pretty nice. I like how it's done. And you know what? This is not just for governmental agencies. If you're a business that's starting to be
Yeah.
big, you can be sued if you
Oh,
haven't done accessibility the right way.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, oh, hold on. My kid is trying to call. Um, yeah, no, this is great. This is great. Um, love it.
Yeah.
Congrats. Yeah, Anuja is saying, hey, congrats. Looks great.
Thank you. Hey, Anusha. Thank you.
So I'm really sorry we don't have full ride tuition, but I can tell you we're going to have something interesting very soon for international audiences. I'm not going to say exactly what it is. And I really applaud your passion and how invested you are in it. We have something ready to help with international audiences. So let me just put it out there. It's going to be announced pretty soon. Hopefully that helped. All right, let's go back. So, Halid has a few questions here now. Let's look at it. Studied CS, computer science in a campus, but for the past 2 years, I have been pursuing my passion, which is filmmaking. Interesting. Film instructor and freelance voice. That's awesome, Halid.
Oh.
Okay, I decided to go and join Nucamp to brush up my skill. how do you see the current entry level job openings? Also yesterday, GitHub another Copilot. What is your take? Oh, okay. Um, so I think we touched on the question about the job market a little
Mhm.
bit. We haven't talked about AI. We'd love to hear your thoughts on AI as well. Let
Sure.
me just respond again to that job market point using you, Candice, as the example. The job market right now is tough, right? Not
Yes.
denying, but there are still positions out there,
Hmm.
and the way to go about it is to do pretty much what you've done, Candice, which is never again click apply on LinkedIn. Pretty much,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
if that's what you do every day, you're not gonna make it. Just let maybe you will, but the chances are like 5% or something.
Right.
Put yourself out there, write about your journey, make yourself noticed, build your brand. If you don't know how to do that, go back to this exact conversation with Candice and listen to what Candice said like about 20 minutes ago, because you're pretty much giving the recipe of how to do it.
Mm.
Uh, and so listen to Candice, how she did it, and just do exactly the same. Put yourself out there, put yourself out there, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Ludo, can I say one other thing on
yeah, go
that?
for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it's my personality, but I always feel like if you want to be something, do the things
Yeah.
to be that. Like
Yeah.
I never said I was an aspiring web developer. I
Mhm.
was like, I am a web developer because I'm building stuff. Like you can believe me or not, but that's who I am. But even just like in the job scene, like I was like, I'm going to build websites. I'm going to put myself out there. And maybe that will create an opportunity. I'm going to write. Maybe that will create an opportunity. And guess what? I've had writing opportunity, paid writing opportunities. I've had speaking
Yeah.
opportunities paid. I've had like these things have come because I put my skill set out there, things I didn't even know people would pay me to do. So sometimes you have to create your own way and not even know what's really out there, but just put
Yeah.
yourself out there. You won't regret it. What's the worst that can happen?
That's right. And I will also add to that the fact that it didn't come overnight as well, right? We talked about it. Like you started in 2018 and the journey
Mhm.
was a long journey, and you did acquire the skills. Like when you said you were a WordPress developer, you were indeed a WordPress developer and you had created multiple WordPress sites.
Right.
So it's not also something that comes overnight. It's a lot of grind, but it can be very successful, just like you're proving it. What do you think about AI? Like, how are you using AI yourself
I
right now?
love I love AI. I use AI in my design. I use AI in my development. I use AI in my writing. There is my secret, y'all. It's out. I love it. Um, I don't think anything's wrong with AI. It's an assistant. It should be
Yeah,
used as an assistant. Just like if you tap somebody on the shoulder and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or could you help me think more about this problem? How can I solve it? I think it's great. I don't think we should completely rely on it.
mhm,
And I don't think that we ever will. There's always going to need we're always going to need the human intelligence to go with the
mhm.
artificial intelligence. If we ever remove the human intelligence, then it's not going to be optimized. So that's my thought about it.
So, are you worried about AI taking over your job?
Not at all. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Awesome. Well, that's simple and straight enough. So, April, hey April, good to see you here. April has been on the show, by the way.
Yes. I
Um,
was encouraged by her story
yeah.
and we connected because of her being on the show. So, hey.
All right. Irene is here. Hey,
Hi.
Irene. So you had a conversation with Irene, who helped write. We have a blog about you.
Mhm.
If someone is interested to learn more about yourself, they can check out the blog or they can check out your profile on LinkedIn,
Yes.
and learn a lot about you. So we're actually getting at the end of this conversation. It was really inspiring and I hope helpful for everybody else to hear how you made it,
Mm,
how you navigated through your portfolio of passions,
yes.
uh, and how it's all coming together. Any last word of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience, Candice?
Last words of wisdom. I would say if everyone is going this way, take a 15-degree angle and go that way, and you'll find that there's space for you. Just do
Hmm.
something a little different than everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always a niche out there that can welcome you and you can be successful at.
For
Very
sure.
true. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. I saw your message, Ethio. I'm sorry we don't have a full ride scholarship, but I promise you, in a few weeks, we'll have something to say about that to help everyone outside of the US who really cannot afford the $350 a month, even though it's a smaller amount than everybody else. Um, so yeah, we'll have something there. Thank you again, Candice. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you,
Really appreciate.
Ludo. This was so fun. I'm sad it's over.
We'll do it again. Why not? You know what? Yeah, I would love. Actually seriously. Let's talk about in the background of your plans to build that business, and maybe
Yeah.
that's something we could do together. So
Awesome.
yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. See ya. Have a great weekend. Happy Veterans Day for tomorrow. Yeah. Say hi to your husband for me.
I will. Thank you.
Take care.